What's going on, everybody? Hope you guys had a good weekend. It is Sunday night. It is time for a special episode of the Going Broadway Podcast, and we'll get to that in just a second. It is Alex. It is Cole with you this evening. Cole, what's happening?
Guys, as always, thank you for watching the greatest wrestling podcast ever. And I do, just real quick, I have to give a little bit of a shout out. The lunch lady, Stacy Hernacki, it is spring break, which means she can hang out with us. So I got to hit you with a little. All right. Sorry. I had to have fun with that. But guys, thank you so much for joining us. I see a lot of our regulars in here. Thank y'all for being here. And we have to shift on a dime just a little bit, just a smidge. Not all the way. It's okay. Everybody stay. We'll give away something. I'm just kidding. We may not. But
or we might.
You never know.
No.
But Alex, why don't you let the people know what's going on?
So our special guest is running just a tad late. He called me about 15 minutes before we went live and said he would be joining us at about 10 to 15 after. So we'll just take care of some business first.
Y'all like business.
Well, I'll tell you what. We got a big crowd in here. Let's just get our whole promotions shilling stuff out of the way. So
promote away, my friend.
If you are not familiar with us, you can check us out on Facebook, YouTube, and our Twitch channel. We're live as of now every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. That could be changing, at least in the immediate term. It is changing. We do have a few interviews scheduled over the next few weeks that will fall on a Monday, and we'll just tell you about those right now. So next week, Monday, the 27th, and we just announced this on our social media platforms earlier this week, actually technically last week since it's Sunday. Conrad Thompson will be joining us on Monday, March 27th at a special time, 6 p.m. Eastern. I'm sorry, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Central. Now, I can't reiterate this enough. We're not officially switching to Mondays yet. We are considering it. But just keep that in mind. The next few podcasts will be on Mondays. The following week, on Monday, April the 3rd, we have B. Brian Blair joining us. Same time, 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central. Then the week after that, on Monday, April 10th, at 6 Eastern, 5 Central, we have Jake Roberts joining us. Lastly, I can't give a name yet. We're still working on it, but we are working on a big name interview right now. We're shooting for Monday, April 17th. We'll see if that happens, but stay tuned for that. Cole, why don't you tell the people about our monthly gaming events that we hold, and see if any others that are watching that might be new, maybe we could entice them to join us for those.
Yes, sir. So here at the Going Broadway Podcast, we do a monthly gaming pay-per-view. We've named them. We have a lot of fun with them. And we actually just did our last one this past weekend called March Mayhem. And we had a lot of fun. Basically, what you do is we post spots up on our social media page on Facebook. You go on there. You select the sponsorship that you'd like to pick. For instance, if there's a triple threat match, you can sponsor whatever the cost is of that match. You can pick your wrestler. And they are all computer-generated matches. Basically, with the winner, as of right now, we're getting ready to change kind of how we do prizes. But with the winner winning their option of a customized belt within reason or a cash out option for the winner. So that's what we do. We do one of those each and every month. And I told y'all, Alex, can I let the cat out of the bag on our April event? Can I?
Why
tell
not?
Why not?
Just do it. We'll give you guys the scoop.
I told y'all for April we were going to do something real special. And so April is actually our GBP Invitational. That is the name of our pay-per-view for that. And Alex and I have decided to go head to head. And what that means is that you will not be selecting your wrestler. You will be sponsoring the wrestlers that we have selected. So you are saying, Cole, I am counting on you to pick the right person for that match. And so if you see a wrestler that you like that you think is going to win, you'll sponsor that just like you would a regular slot in our past pay-per-views. And then we are adding a slot where you can bet, in a sense, on who you think is going to come out with the most wins. If you think it's Alex, you will put on it'll be like a couple dollar slot. You'll bet on Alex, and if you think it's me, you'll bet on me, and multiple people can do that one, and it gains you an extra entry if you're right. So if all of you bet on me and I'm wrong, no one gets an extra entry. And if all of you bet on me and I am the winner, all of you get an extra entry that did that. So even for those of you who don't want to sponsor a wrestler, but you would like to just sponsor the overall victor, you could do that. It's possible.
So don't sponsor a wrestler, sponsor Cole or myself.
So we're going to have some fun with that. So that's going to be how we do April. Alex and I'm going to get the matches and the slots set up, and Alex and I are going to pick our wrestlers. We will announce the entire card to you, and then it will be first come, first serve for you to select your sponsorship on wrestlers, though. There's only one per wrestler.
And I'll elaborate on that further. First come, first serve. So it goes out on our Patreon page first. So if you are a patron currently or a future patrons are eligible as well. Though they get first crack at these events. So they go up on our Patreon first, and then after, we might have to put some guidelines.
Hey, you want to sponsor both? Go for it. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, I mean, it kind of goes back to our rule about only getting 50%.
It is a 50% rule. So you're gonna have to, I'm sorry, David Tilley, you're gonna have to pick one. All right. You cannot occupy both slots.
But yeah, they go on our Patreon first. So check that out if you're interested. For as little as $5 a month, gets you not only that, but I'll post scoops in advance in terms of what guests we're having on. I'll post those before anyone else knows. Yeah, it is it's for sure. But yeah, we'll keep you guys updated on that in the coming days. We do want to get that out there pretty soon, just to give it enough time to fill up. Like Cole said, we are adjusting the prizes, and I posted it on our Discord as well. We're still tweaking what that's going to look like. We haven't decided fully, but just a heads up that there might be some variances as far as what the prizes look like moving forward, not only for our Powerball events, but for our gaming events as well. So stay tuned for that. But like Cole said, we did have an event yesterday.
Yes, we did.
I had to think about it for a second. It's like that. I feel like a lot's happened just in the last 24 hours. But that being said,
we had a great event, y'all. Like I wish you guys technically can go watch the playback on Twitch. Mm-hmm. The matches were great. We had 3 5-star matches. It was a great time, and I just want to touch on real quick as well. Alex mentioned 2 and very important things when it comes to these gaming PPVs. Number 1, you need to be in our Discord. We have the whole downloadable gaming roster in our Discord. So it's not just playable characters that are on the game, but people that created characters that we've downloaded that you can use. So you need to be in there for that. And you should become a Patreon member, because for $5 a month, you get first dibs on your slots compared to everybody else. So those are 2 very big important ones. And I'll add one more. If you haven't already, subscribe on Twitch, $4.99 a month. That helps out the show, and it gets rid of all the ads. So if you don't want ads while you're watching the show here for interviews, you don't want ads while you're watching any of the special things that we do on Twitch only, you're going to want to pay that $4.99 as well. By becoming a Patreon member too, you can get first dibs on your questions being read to all of our guests that are on the show. So those are big things.
To answer Brian's question, Jordan, who won, selected the replica Intercontinental. So
congrats, Jordan.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Okay. And we need to get one more winner out of the way before Mr. Bagwell joins us. I do have the randomizer pulled up here. We got, Cole, you can tell me if this is correct. I got 5 entries for Andrew. I've got 2 entries for Thomas and 1 each for Stacy and Mr. David Tilley. Is that correct?
Those are our winners. Andrew cleaned house.
All right. Here we go. As always, it's 10 clicks. Here we go. Oh, by the way, we do have a cash out option for this as well. So if you don't want a belt and you just want cold hard cash, by all means. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Click number 10 will be our winner, and it is the man who cleaned house. Andrew Boehner wins it.
Had to know. I mean, it only takes one. It only takes one entry to win. We've had that happen before, but 5 correct picks is out of 8 is insane.
9, technically.
Not one. Yeah, technically 9 with the tag one.
But yeah, congrats, Andrew. If you want to select a belt, let me know what you want. If you want cold hard cash, that's fine too. Just
pay back all the entries that you selected.
You know how to find me. You know where to track me down. So just let me know.
What do you break even on that, Andrew? I don't know how that works.
No, I mean he profits.
Oh man,
he profits.
The Andrew rule. I'm dying.
But what was I gonna say? I don't remember. It'll come back to me.
I'm dead.
We got a few more minutes to kill before he jumps on. I thought he would have been on by now, but what's something we can shoot the breeze on for a minute or two? We're going to Raw tomorrow night.
We are going to Monday Night Raw. I am excited because it is road to WrestleMania, but it's super close.
Yeah.
To WrestleMania, which is exciting because there could be major developments on this Raw. They've really hyped it up in our area. Like I've seen nonstop commercials and ads and all this stuff. So I'm super excited. I mean, I don't know who's important to everybody, but Logan Paul has confirmed to be there. Cody Rhodes is confirmed to be there. I am just hoping and praying that John Cena is there. Oh, I will lose my stuff if John Cena is there. Yeah, so like Roman Reigns is supposed to be in attendance.
Did that come through?
What? No.
Did that soundbite come through?
It didn't play.
It didn't.
Fired. You're fired. You have your volume turned down?
No, everything's turned up. Nothing's muted. I don't know.
Fired.
I played the John Cena soundbite. It wasn't meant to be, I guess.
You're fired.
I probably would have killed somebody's eardrums. That was super loud on my end.
I didn't hear it. Maybe did other people hear the John Cena soundbite? I didn't hear it.
It don't matter. It's all good. It's probably for the best because that was so freaking loud. Like, anyway. No, I'm super excited about it too. And that was one of the first things I thought whenever we got the tickets for it. It's like, man, that's 2 weeks away from Mania. And that's, it's crazy to me that a market like St. Louis is getting a Raw or a SmackDown this close to Mania.
Oh man. Everybody meet my head pastor.
Oh man. No, I think it's gonna be really cool. I'm looking forward to it. My goal is to get there earlier than we did. We went to SmackDown back in October.
Yeah.
November, September. I don't know.
It was fall last year.
But we got there and we had to wait in line a little bit longer and hoping to get there earlier.
And we hate that. We hate that.
Hoping to get there to where it's, first in line or closer to the door at least. So
are we going to give WrestleMania predictions? WrestleMania is the first weekend in April. Who's our show before that?
It's Conrad next week. I figured we'd do predictions with him.
We will definitely do predictions with Conrad. That will be a fun segment. So yes,
I strategically wanted him as a guest. Our podcast before Mania for that reason, just so we could get his thoughts on predictions, give our predictions, see where we agree, disagree. Conrad will be it'll be an interview to some degree, but I think it's also going to be a blend of we were going to have John Alba on with us last week. I didn't feel well, had to cancel it. We are looking to reschedule, but he was going to be more of like a third member of the podcast for that particular show.
Yeah,
not so much an interview. Conrad's going to be kind of a blend.
Yeah, and we're gonna have fun with that. To answer Jordan's question, no, We are not doing a WrestleMania watch party, and I will go on record to probably say we never will. When it comes to WrestleMania, number one, we want to watch it. We don't want to just host. Like, we don't want to have to feel the need to host. And it's a 2-nighter, so we would have to. We wouldn't do both nights. We would have to pick a night if we were to ever even consider it. But Alex and I, we might get together and watch it as a little watch party. So
Chris's comment cracks me up.
So I recap one of your shows like he does for something. Oh man,
we're gonna have to get chat me up out of him. We're gonna have to get some quotes out of him.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one for sure.
Let's see.
On May 5th, 2022, you said this. What was the thought there? I couldn't remember what I said last week, let alone what I said. He would have to quote me.
Yeah. Real quick, we have a few more people that have jumped on. We're still waiting on Mr. Bagwell to join us. He reiterated to me he was going to join closer to 10, 15 after. It's getting close to 20 after, so fingers crossed.
He was on a flight. He was getting off a flight, I think, right? He said
no. He told me he was just in a car heading back home.
That's what it was. Yeah. So
I mean, I don't know where he was coming from,
but we're gonna be patient. Be patient with us. It'll be all right, my children. See if Connor makes.
I don't know.
Okay. Since we have time to talk about this while we're waiting, what's funny is if you go back and watch, she didn't understand what was happening because I wasn't crying and wasn't even the person she was actually talking to. Alex had I went back to watch because I'm like, did I even signal that I was going to cry or something? And Alex was talking to her about something. I leaned back to laugh and she said, "Oh, it's Cole crying."
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't even in reference to what she was talking about, and who she was talking to was Alex. I wasn't even doing that. I was just laughing at what they were talking about. And then it turned into this whole crying thing. So I really don't know where it came from, but I think it's hilarious that you guys have caught onto it so hard.
We've dropped the ball. We should have had a shirt on Pro Wrestling Tees already.
Well, see, no, we shouldn't, because I gave them an opportunity to make that happen and they couldn't do it. So
yeah, that's all right. Oh man.
We have some good news, y'all. The man, the myth, the legend is finally in the building. We're going to bring him in. Here. Alex, why don't you give us the intro package here?
Let's do it. So
hype him up.
We're excited and honored to have on with us tonight someone who has had his share of highs, his lows, everything in between. And we're going to talk a lot about it tonight. He is the 5-time former WCW World Tag Team Champion. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus Buff Bagwell. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Not a whole lot. Safe travels, I assume?
Yeah, man. We had a little Comic-Con signing in Nashville today.
Awesome. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll just jump right in. Cole, why don't you get us going?
All right. Well, first off, Mr. Bagwell, if I can call you that. We are excited to have you here. Thank you so much for taking some time with us. I know our viewers have been waiting for this moment. They've been chatting it up in the chat there. So we like to start off our interviews just discussing some of the more recent stuff that's going on in your life and your career. And so just want to give you a second. Maybe you could share with us what's been up with you lately. Currently, what is the day in the life of Marcus Bagwell?
The day in the life me right now, man, is I'm not a day counter on my my sobriety. I always found it weird that people not weird. Everybody's got their different walk with sobriety. It's not weird. I didn't choose to be an actual day counter because it seemed like when I was going through the rehab part and the aftercare part, it seems like nobody was really exactly sure what day. So I'm 6 months clean, And it's like, I think it's 200 and some odd days. But the main thing to remember is my sobriety date. My sobriety date is August 27th. So that's how I like to keep up with it. But so August 27th is, my whole world started at Black Bear, trying to get my life back and being sober again. I had a car wreck August of 2020 that left me really injured, really bad with my left knee. My right knee patellar tendon exploded, and they had to rebuild it. They did a gastrocnemius, big long word ending with flap, on my right knee. And that surgery didn't go real well. And things started kind of happening bad, like COVID happened. COVID was happening during that time. And I thought maybe I could get back healthy in time, and, that COVID would be over and I could be back in the ring and everything be going great. Well, that didn't work that way. It was real bad. The surgery was real deep. It got infected, got staph, and I had to go to the hospital for 7 weeks during COVID, and nobody could come see me or anything. So I had 21 surgeries in 7 weeks on my right knee. I get out of there, and then went through a crazy breakup with a girlfriend that ended up me just trying to figure it out, man. I didn't know where to go. And my life, for the first time, I was a little depressed. I owned the house we were living in, but she had got a restraint order out on me with legal stuff. And it was just ugly, very toxic, very ugly. And so I, for the first time in my life, turned to drinking. I had never been a drinker. But I turned to drinking and just tried to escape. And I couldn't. I was trying to keep everything going with appearances, but my leg was getting worse. And I'd show up to shows and try to do things and signings, but I couldn't keep it together, man. And then I got 4 wounds on my right knee and on my right leg. It was like one on my knee and 2 on my ankle and 1 on the back of my ankle, but 4 wounds. And I really started drinking and taking Xanax and Somas. And my niece that came in my life about this time, and I started shooting a show with Dallas called Change or Die. And it was a pretty good time and a pretty good title for me to fix what I had going on. So I quit drinking. I was 270 when I came into Dallas this year to do Change or Die. So I was 270 pounds. I was the heaviest I've ever been. And so there was 5 of us. There's 5 in this show we're shooting, and one of them's Butterbean. The other 3 are just regular people that dealing with either pills, prescription problems, or weight problems. So it was 5 people living under one roof, and they called it Change or Die. And during that, I got sober. I started getting sober, and I felt like this was I could regroup and fix it. And I didn't. It was I kind of relapsed during that show, and I got kicked out of the show. And it's all on video, and it's great when it comes out. It's going to be phenomenal. Again, it's the show's called Change or Die. So I didn't change, and I didn't die. So it's a good show to see what happened. But what happened out of it was an intervention with Dallas and my niece by coming to me saying, "Look, it's time for you got to get sober. If you don't get sober," they were getting out of my life. And they said, "Look, so this is literally today, you're going to rehab. We're taking your phone. We're taking this. And if you don't go to rehab, then we're out of your life." And I said, "Okay." I was ready to go. I was tired and depressed, and my way was not working. My life had became unmanageable. And so I went to a place called Black Bear in North Georgia, and Black Bear Recovery. And it's my 5th rehab I'd been to over the past, 25 years. But it's the first time that it made sense to me. The other times I was going to get clean for 30 days and I was going to be fine. So as soon as, I was working during that 30 days, like setting up dates. And as soon as I got out, I was going back to work, and I was worried about my job and my career. I'd never really focused on me getting better. This time I was able to focus on me getting better, me getting truly, honestly clean. And so I checked in, man, and did that. And I'd never, out of the other 4 rehabs, I'd never done aftercare. I'd always took it like, okay, man, I was clean for 30 days. I'm fine now. And that cannot be more not the truth. 30 days, for the difference of 30 days and then doing, like 120 days, the difference of success is in the numbers. It's huge number wise on the statistics on how much more you stay clean if you do the 120-day thing. So, but I was in my mind, I wasn't going to do that. It was 30 days again. But when I got there and really started understanding sobriety and recovery, I really I don't know, this time I was excited about it. I'm 53 years old now. And it just seemed like for the first time, I was trying to get clean on my own. So not for my wife, not for my family, not for a career, not for a job, just for my life, for me, for Mark. And so I did. And I graduated Black Bear. I went there August 27th was my sobriety date. So I did that for 30 days. And day 31, I was in a place called Tangu in Marietta, Georgia, an aftercare place. I graduated that after the 120 days. So that was, September, October, that's November-ish, so that was rolling along really good. Everything was going great. So I got, 3 or 4 months under my belt. And just at that stage, man, things just really started coming through for me. It was unbelievable. It was just like Pro Wrestling Tees contacted me and wanted me to sign autographs for a thing they had going on. And it was just for a crazy number they paid me to sign my autograph, my name. And it just was crazy. I was just like, things happen good to people when you're doing the right thing. And I shared that with my rehab and through Tangu because it wasn't that I was bragging about what happened good to me. I was showing them that good things happen to good people. And I believe that with all my heart. And so I really was like excited that I had got rewarded, not wanting a reward, just trying to work and still got rewarded. But man, it meant a lot when that happened. And it just lit me up to how much more can I do here? What can I do? And I just dove into life for the first time in a really long time and just got excited. My niece and her family, and I'm dating again, and just my life came together with Dallas and, Steve Yu is Dallas's he's our Yoda around here and at DDPY, Steve Yu, and he's great. And I'm back in the gym and I got a knee replacement. I'm getting scheduled to get done within the month. So I'm getting a knee replacement. So that'll be done. And I'm just, everything, there's a light, a big bright light now at the end of the tunnel when there wasn't any. So I'm just very excited about life. I'm sober and clean, which I really didn't think I could do this thing called life sober and clean. I really didn't. I had a pill for everything. It was a pill to get up. It was a pill to go to sleep. I had a pill to go to the gym. I had a pill to fly. I had a pill when I landed. I mean, it was just addiction. It was just a pill, for something. It was just fix it. I thought humans had to fix it, and you don't. Fixing it is not having to worry about that and being free of addiction. It's just so much easier. If I'd have known I could do this, I would have tried it years ago. I just really didn't know this was how it looked from this view. And I'm seeing it really clear now, and it's a great, wonderful view, and I'm just super excited.
I mean, congrats first. Congrats on everything. I mean, that's such a great story. I know that I have people in my life that could just benefit from the positive outlook that you've had, realizing for yourself what it means to be free, addiction free, what it means to take control back of your own life. So I just want to say congrats to you and thank you for being vulnerable enough to even share that.
Absolutely. That's the biggest thing, man, is honesty is what keeps you accountable. And I had no problems ever being an open book in my life. So that was a lot of help for me not to be worried about what people thought about me. I always spoke my heart and spoke the truth from the get-go. And a lot of people don't like that. So usually when somebody likes me or don't like me, it's from the start, because what you get with me out of the gate is how Mark Bagwell is. So I really am true to myself. I'm a true human. So I'm just glad to be that true human again and be truly Mark Bagwell again.
That's awesome. So that actually transitions really well to my next couple of questions. You mentioned, now that you're...
And just to interrupt for one moment, as his old tag team partner, I can admit, when you get to know him, you either love him or you hate him. Like the song, American Males.
American Males. You know that guy, Scotty Riggs.
Wow. We got a Scotty Riggs
A cameo.
There you go, brother. The Scotty Riggs is here.
I love it. And we're gonna get there. We're gonna talk some American Males for sure. So now that you are, you've cleaned up and you're on the right path, so to speak. What's on the horizon for Marcus Bagwell? Are there any specific projects you're working on, considering? We've had some guests on previously, such as Eric Bischoff, such as Medusa. They've gone on to write books. Could we perhaps add author to your accolades?
My book would be a damn good book, man. It's such a lot of people don't have being a pro wrestler. Just being a pro wrestler alone, as you guys know, it always follows with a crazy ass story, But the catch with my story is a crazy ass story as a kid, So it's like I had stuff happen in my whole life that was really just nuts, And again, I'm not the only person that had a crazy life, but it just seems like full circle. Mine's really a story that needs to be heard. But a book, I've dabbled with that idea a few times. It just never has really came through. But my goal that I'm setting for me is I want to wrestle again.
Mm-hmm.
I want to wrestle again. I'm training my niece to wrestle, and my goal is to get in the ring again and wrestle as Buff Bagwell again. I'd love to be in the business, period. If it's managing her, if it's being in wrestling again in some shape, form, or fashion, I'd love it. But I would love to be able to work again. I'm 53 years old, and I'm in great shape except for my right knee, which is in bad shape. So if the surgery and stuff and the replacement surgery goes well, and I'm able to do it, there's nothing anywhere else in my body that's keeping me from being a pro wrestler again.
Promise me, not if, when you return to the ring, that we'll see the strut again.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt.
So we're going to talk your career here in just a second. I kind of want to wrap up this first portion of the interview with this question. And so Cole and I, we don't make any secret that, we're Christian men. Cole is a youth pastor. Now we don't say that to make it sound like that we're better than anyone. We have, issues and, things ourselves that we deal with and struggle with on a daily basis. It does not mean that we're perfect. But we also know that, our faith is important to us, and we know it's important to you as well. So can you kind of share how that's helped you just overcome so much that you have recently?
Yes. God is a huge thing in rehab. You get the higher power word thrown around. I just hate that. God, I hate it so bad that, higher power, which you get in arguments a lot with God and rehab, because one of the questions I asked one day was, first of all, my higher power is I call God. So, but other people like to say they don't believe in God. So we were going around the group one day at Tengu, and we were sharing, and it was in processing. So we were doing what's called checking in. So we're checking in. You say, hey, my name is Marcus Bagwell. My sobriety date is August 27th. And you just check in what's going on in your life for a second. And everybody shares during rehab. So I noticed that this day, everybody was like saying, when I pray, and I don't pray to God, but when I pray, and I was like, how do you say a prayer without saying, dear God? What do you say if you don't say God? So I let the one person say it, and I thought about it for a minute because I didn't want to get in an argument because that's what it was going to be. And all of a sudden I heard a second person say, yeah, I was praying the other day, and again, I wasn't praying to God, but I was praying, and I let that person finish, and I went, I go, so I raised my hand. It was time to start an argument. I go, can I ask a question? I go, again, I said, I call my higher power God. I said, but I see you guys don't, but I'm curious. I go, who are you praying to? And man, hands threw up. They went up. And the therapist called on somebody, and they go, well, when I pray about, I go, no. I didn't ask what you pray about. I go, who are you praying to? And man, the hands went down. One girl came up, and they go, okay, they called on her. Her name was Ivy. They said, Ivy? And she goes, I pray to the community. And I go, okay. At least that answered my question, because I'm trying to figure out who are they talking to? If you're not praying to God, who are you praying to? Well, at least she gave me the answer, community. So I got one answer that answered my question, which was, dear community, please help me, community. I mean, it's silly, but I get it. At least it's an answer. But the point of that story is that you can't do anything in life, I don't think, and be successful at it and excel in it without God being part of it. There's just no way. So the people that try to fight off the God thing and, well, that's a coincidence, and wow, isn't that weird, and wow, that's ironic. I just love when people say those things, because every time I say that, I go, no, that's God. So God's a huge part of my life. Jesus Christ died on the cross at 33 years old and died on the cross for our sins. And all Jesus Christ asks is to believe. God asked to believe that he had his only begotten son die on the cross for our sins. He asked us to believe that only in our hearts, and we can live forever in heaven. And the sad part about that statement is people don't do it. It just blows my mind that he asked for such a little reward for giving his only son to die on the cross, but people still can't do that. It just blows my mind. I mean, it's crazy to me, but there is people out there that don't, and I get it. And but a relationship with God is number one in my life, number one, and it's just crucial on where your life's going or not, and if it don't have God's touch on it, it's just not going to happen good. So God's a big part of my life, and a big part of my sobriety, and a big part of everything. Even during WCW, I went to church as much as I could, and I shared about Christ as much as I could, and I witnessed to Sting and Luger's, but it's just hard to do that when you're being, when you're being, where you're not really doing what you're saying, it don't look good when you got a beer in your hand, you're popping somas, and you're talking about Christ. That's not good. But still, I was trying, it seems, to witness, but still, you just don't realize, and I did, how much God was in my life. And that was when I got that paycheck that came in every 2 weeks, that was bigger than anybody else's I knew that came in every 2 weeks. It was special, and it was different, and it was very, very, I was very grateful for it, to the point of when I got my check every 2 weeks for the 11 years I worked at WCW, I went to a knee every single paycheck I got and said a prayer. I don't care where I was at. I went to a knee and I said a prayer, because I knew what was happening to me was I should be very thankful and grateful for, and I was. And now that I'm going through this, I just, again, you forget and you put God to the side a little bit, and alcohol comes in and Satan comes in. But once you get back in the right with God and you look at God eye to eye again, is what I call it, eye to eye, then you know that, he's there, he's there for you. And it's something that you just can't go without if you want to be successful at it.
Well,
So
I will amen that.
Yes.
So, anywho, thank you again for just sharing all that with us.
Absolutely.
And, so we're gonna deep dive in, and I'm just gonna kick it off with, before the wrestling, you were actually a baseball player, amateur boxer. Were there ever any aspirations of going pro or doing anything with either of those things before wrestling became the thing?
Absolutely there was. But what was going against all three of all my brothers and me, three boys, what was going against us all was my parents were rich. I had very wealthy parents growing up, and very wealthy. My parents owned a lumber company for 17 years, from 1971 till 1988, and it was a wonderful, wonderful time in my life. I mean, we were rich, and it was crazy. My dad was a drag racer, and my mom ran the lumber company, and we were deer hunters, and we were athletes, and we were the Bagwells. And being the Bagwells in Marietta was a big deal. And it was something that we wasn't cocky about. It was something we were thankful for, but at the same time, we were powerful people. We were a strong, wealthy family that also excelled in sports. My brother was great at football. My brother John was great at baseball. I feel like I was really good at both. I mean, I was all county, all state, and they both were too. And my brother John was a state champion wrestler. I was a state champion boxer when I was 12, Golden Gloves. So we were very athletic, but I excelled in football and baseball more. And my brother John was baseball. My brother Steve was football. And he had a full ride to University of Tennessee in 1981. And he graduated 81, so it would have been 82. He had a full ride. And because of my parents having money, he went up there with his wife. He got married right out of high school. He went up there with his wife. My parents bought a house for him off campus. He got all the way up there. He was a freshman again and hated it. Now, if he didn't have millionaire parents right back here that he could have gone back and worked at the lumber company for, if he didn't have that, he would have stayed and tried to excel there. But I feel like he didn't stay. And I didn't know it at the time, but I feel like he didn't stay because my parents was an easy way out, because who don't want to not be a freshman and come back and be rich? So that's what he did. Same thing on my middle brother. My middle brother was great at baseball. He made the AAA Atlanta Braves team in a tryout at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium, the old Braves Stadium.
Yeah.
And he made the team. It was 1,000 players at an open tryout. They asked 500 to come back. He made it. They asked 100 to come back. He made it. And when they asked 100 to come back, he went drag race with my father and didn't come back for the tryout. And at the time, I was like, well, we're rich, so it don't really matter. But then in 1988, when my parents lost their store, I was a senior. Those things became very bright to me, like, wow, my brothers didn't excel in what they were doing because they came back to the store, and then now it's under. Their first two things were, why didn't I go after my football? Why didn't I go after my baseball? And so I was a senior getting this presented to me like, hey, we're going broke. What do you want to do? So again, my reflection was I wasn't good at school. I graduated with a 1.8 grade point average because my parents didn't care about school. They didn't push school on us because we were going to work for the lumberyard is what they were hoping. And then, so when my brothers started working for the lumberyard, the baby was going to work for the lumberyard too. So we were good in school. We played sports in school and we graduated, but we school was not a big deal to us, and it wasn't presented by our parents that way. So we just didn't do it. But that 1988 talk, when the store went under, that Steve, my brother Steve, wished he would have stayed with the Volunteers, and John wished he went for the Braves tryout. And I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do. And so I got into massage therapy. I was thinking sports medicine, sports trainer, and the fast track with a 1.8 grade point average, a fast track of making something happen would have been, let's do massage therapy. Let's try massage therapy. So I graduated the Atlanta School of Massage, and that was in 1989, and found out pretty quick that wasn't going to happen. And I loved it and was trying to make it work as a career, but it just wasn't. So that's when Missy Hyatt found me and got into pro wrestling.
So prior to joining WCW, we got to touch on this a little bit. You were with the Global Wrestling Federation under the Handsome Stranger character. Can you share with our viewers how that gimmick came to fruition, who pitched it to you, etc.?
Yes, I was wrestling as Fabian for a company called North Georgia Wrestling, trying to make it in pro wrestling after Missy got me in wrestling. And so I was horrible, trying to figure out how these guys work 250 days a year and how they do this thing called pro wrestling that was beating me up. I didn't get it, and was just trying to excel and make it, getting paid $5 a match, and didn't get it. And then finally, Global opened up, and they asked me to come out there. And Bill Eadie of the Demolition, he's who thought of my character, the Handsome Stranger. And, he gave me the mask and the roses. It was totally his idea. And so when he did that, I went out there, and that's where I learned a lot. I learned so much out there, because the first day I went out there, I'll never forget. I went out there and I walked in the dressing room, and the bad guys and the good guys are in the same locker room. And I was like, wait a second. I go, you mean you guys can talk? And they were like, yeah. And I went, I can do this. I mean, I just came from a place where we met in the ring at a skating rink and was trying to call a match with two guys that were green. It was the most horrific looking matches you've ever seen. So I literally went from a 1 to like a 7 in my first match, just by being able to talk a little bit with your opponent. And I just didn't know that's how it works. And I was like, oh my God, this is great. So I really jumped a big notch. That 3 months at Global really got me ready for WCW.
Well, speaking of WCW, starting in 1991, you debut in WCW. Why don't you tell us how that all kind of came about? Who brought you in? What the conversations were like? All that.
Well, Missy started the whole thing with getting me trained, but then I was out of her reach for the next year. I mean, she knew what was going on. She lived right next to me, right across the hall from me. She lived, and I was in contact with her all the time. And I'd gone to a couple of TV tapings at Civic Center in Atlanta, a couple of times, Civic Center in Marietta, where I live. And I saw Lex and a couple guys and stuff, and just kind of hung out and did catering and stuff, and just hung out with Missy, and just kind of see where I fit in there, And then somehow or another, Missy, how it came about was Global was getting ready to sign everybody to a contract, and the first 3 guys they were going to sign was the Patriot, Raven, and me. And I know Raven was Scott Anthony, the Palm Beach heartthrob there. Mm-hmm. And I was an Handsome Stranger. So they called Scotty first, and he got his contract, and they called the Patriot, and he got his contract. And then I was next in line, and they called me and said that they were going out of business. And I was like, what? When we thought we were going to be the third company, the WWF, the WCW, and then now the GWF. We were going to be third. We were at a primetime spot on ESPN, man. It was a big deal, And to hear it was over in 3 months was so depressing. I mean, I was just sitting at my kitchen table like, you got to be kidding. And I swear to you, the same day, and it seems like it was an hour, but it seems like it was just a few seconds, but it was the same day for sure. I got the call that was over, and I got the call to that Magnum TA called me to meet with Dusty for WCW.
Wow.
And I was like, does this even happen? I mean, looking back on it, I feel like I'm lying, but I'm not. That's exactly what happened, because Magnum called me up and he goes, is Marcus Bagwell there? And I said, this is him. And he goes, this is Magnum TA. And I said, who? Swear to God. And as soon as I said who, I thought, oh my God, Magnum TA. And I went, oh, Magnum, I'm so sorry, man. I'm sorry, brother. I just kind of tried to apologize. And he was like, yeah, okay, man. Dusty, once, you come in and meet him. So I go down and meet Dusty, and suit, tie, all that, and get down there. And this has been a year and a half of trying to make it, doing nothing but saying, I'm going to be a pro wrestler for a year and a half. And so the meeting comes up, Dusty's there, and he wants me to go back and do the last couple of TV tapings for Global. And I convince him to hire me. So he hires me to a $500 a week going to school contract, which I was thrilled. All I wanted was a foot in the door, man. Because I knew I could prove myself at my age. I was so young. I was just 20. I just had turned 21. And so I go, so they had me come down to Savannah. In Savannah, Georgia, at the Clash of Champions was with Missy Hyatt, was my debut on TV at the Clash of Champions in Savannah, Georgia.
Wow.
So before we continue with your career, I wanted to get your thoughts on a particular gimmick, so to speak. So being an old school fan, I mean, we had shirts made with the old WCW font, so to speak. The same year you debuted was actually one of my favorite ideas that, unfortunately, when I say unfortunately, that's my opinion, didn't last very long. The Lethal Lottery and Battle Bowl. I just want to get your thoughts on that concept.
I thought it was great. Is that where they did the thing?
Yep.
They turned like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the tag teams had to mix up and stuff.
Yeah. So mixed tag teams, and then the winners of those tag team matches had that Battle Bowl, Battle Royal at the end.
Well, let me tell you, for example, that Battle Royal at the ending there, or whatever it was, I remember I was so green. I don't remember what number I was supposed to go out or anything. I just remember looking around and thinking, oh my God, there's only 4 guys left. What am I doing? I almost wanted to throw myself out because I was so scared. But I realized, I said, wait a minute. I said, this has happened for a reason, and I'm gonna stay in here. So I made it work, and I really got a lot of notoriety from that. They did several interviews with me from making it a long time in the Lethal Lottery, the Battle Royal. There, it was a big deal for me. It was a big step in my career because that was before Too Cold or anything. Mm-hmm. So, in the match that got me on the board with WCW though was Chris Benoit. I had a Chris Benoit match on a Saturday night taping when he first came in the company. And man, we had a hell of a match. And Dusty Rhodes came out of the back and he was like, Bagwell. I go, yeah. He goes, you didn't tell me you knew how to wrestle. And I go, well, I thought you knew I knew how to wrestle. I'm in WCW, bro. He goes, yeah, but I know you knew how to wrestle like that. And so out of that is where they put me with Too Cold, and then Rookie of the Year, Tag Team of the Year, World Tag Team Champions all happened in 92.
Yep.
So during your first couple years at WCW, at least to your knowledge, was it always like the plan just to get you acclimated, or were there ever any pitches that for like more prominent roles for you that maybe just never happened?
I really think they were just so blown away with really how good of a physique I had at such a young age. At 21 years old, man, there was nobody that really looked like I did at 21 in pro wrestling. And if there was, nobody could do the moves and stuff. Mm-hmm. I was able to put guys over like Rude and Austin, and it made them look so much better because they wasn't just beating some jabroni. They were beating a kid that looks like an athlete and walks the walk and talks the talk. So that's a bad place to be and a good place to be. It was a great place to be financially and career-wise, but kind of a bad place to be, because how are you going to move up there? You know, you find that, you know, putting guys over as a role, you know, that's kind of rough, you know. So when they slid in that Sting saving me deal, you know, that was all Dusty's idea, and it was huge, and it really worked. Where, you know, the Dangerous Alliance, you know, I'm automatically with the top guys, you know, Rude, Austin, Zabisco, Bobby Eaton, you know, all these guys they're Paul E. Dangerously. They beat me up, you know, and then Sting would come make the save. I mean, it was huge for me. And, you know, Vader, any angle Sting had coming up, that person would beat me up, and Sting would come down and save the rookie. And it put me on the map because I'm rubbing elbows with stars. So it just worked, man. And and I'd go to Dusty with it, and I'd be worried. And I'd be like, Dusty, man, I'm getting beat every week. And he told me, he goes, man, just trust me. He said, it'll change, and nobody will remember this. And I said, I just kept believing. I kept believing. But I'd go to him. I'd get upset again. I'd go to him again. Like, Dusty, man, am I ever going to start winning, man? You know me, ever? And they'd give me a win here and there, you know, to kind of keep me alive. And I understood how it worked. But I was ready for a push, you know. And I just saw that the tag team line of being famous was a much shorter line. Mm-hmm. And all it's about is about being the best at whatever you're doing. If it's a TV champion, you're the champion. If it's the world champion, you're the champion. If you're the world tag team champion, you're on the top of your game. And that line was shorter. So I excelled in becoming great at tag team wrestling. And I just really understood how a tag team match is supposed to work. I'm in the ring with Steiner Brothers and Lugers and Stings and great talent. And Marcus Bagwell's calling the spots. Marcus Bagwell's calling the comebacks and the heat spots and the tag spots. And we're not listening to everything I'm saying, but a 21-year-old kid is calling the plays, and it was working, and it just worked, and everybody was happy, and it was good, and it flowed, and I just found my niche as a tag team wrestler.
Little side question here, just because you mentioned something that got me thinking. Being an athlete, you know, you have a competitive nature, right? You want to win. What is it like to be in a profession where you don't get to decide if you win? You don't get to decide the decision, but you're hungry. I want to succeed. Well, tell us about that competitive nature a little bit and how it fits in pro wrestling.
It's all about winning and losing, man. I mean, in anything you do. I mean, since I was a kid, I mean, it's about winning and losing. It's about you're out, you're safe, you won, I lost, I won, you lost, I was first, you're second. I mean, that's how my life was as three boys growing up in a house. And there was no gray area about winning and losing. The reason why soccer sucks is because soccer, there's ties in it. And I know there's things now that they don't have ties, but it took them 100 years to figure that out. Right. There's no tying in sports, bro. There's a winner and there's a loser. And in pro wrestling, I feel like it was devastating for me to answer your question. It was devastating. But where people go, including the boys, they go, well, you know, that's crazy to complain about winning and losing. I just wish I was under contract. I'd never bitch if I was under contract. I'd never complain if I was under contract. Bullshit. You are going to complain under contract, because if you don't, you're the only one that don't.
Right.
And the squeaky wheel gets oiled. So how you did it as a top talent is, if you were getting beat this week, you didn't say a word. If you're getting beat the second week in a row, you didn't say a word. And if you're getting beat the third, you spoke up nicely and you got something done about it without there being heat.
Got you.
That's how the top guys taught me, and that worked.
Thank you.
So you mentioned these tag teams already, one with Too Cold Scorpio, the other with the Patriot. For both of those tag teams, can you tell us whose idea was it to pair for those pairings, what, if any, long-term plans might have been for either or both tag teams, etc.?
Yeah, Too Cold came out of me and Benoit's match, and Big Van Vader and Scorpio were friends. And so it's Big Van Vader's idea to put me and Too Cold together. And we just clicked instantly, man. I didn't know the names of the moves. I didn't know how to do them. But if I was showed what to do, I could do them on first try. And that's what made me good. I could see what somebody was doing, and I could do it after they showed me how to do it and make it look really good. I was able to adapt. And that made me and Scorpio really bond. And then that just worked so great that we had a great run. I mean, like I said, Tag Team of the Year, Rookie of the Year, and then we were World Tag Team Champs as well. And then Scorpio got fired. And I thought, man, I'm just Marcus Alexander Bagwell. Why would they keep me? And then all of a sudden, I get the phone call that they brought in Dale Wilkes, the Patriot, and wanted to call us Stars and Stripes. And I was real excited. I mean, real excited about that, because if they put USA chant on your bottom, that's huge, because you got the USA chant. You got the crowd. You're the crowd favorite. You're the red, white, and blue. You're the Rookie of the Year. You're the hometown boy. It's everything perfect. And then they hired Jim Duggan. And Jim Duggan's great. I worship Jim Duggan. But he does the USA chant. So on the same card in Germany on a tour, we got two guys that do the USA thing. You got Jim Duggan and you got Stars and Stripes. So it worked and it was great still. But it just made it going from being a great tag team, because we were Tag Team of the Year twice, me and Dale were. And so we had a great run and all that. It could have been much bigger, I think, if there was only one USA on the card. And then, so from there, it went to, Scotty Riggs with the American Males.
Which leads us right into that question. We had a little cameo earlier.
Yeah.
Scotty Riggs. You guys come together as the American Males. Tell us how it formed. Tell us about that pairing.
The American Males was my baby. This was my baby. I was trying to convince WCW that a goatee, earrings, chokers was not bad guys anymore. We could wear chokers, you could wear earrings, you could wear goatees and be a good guy, be a baby face. And they just wasn't buying it. They wasn't going with me. And then we shot this video of me and Scotty Riggs that was probably one of the best things I ever did in my career. But it was a really, really great video showing just two American males that were in this video with football, Harleys, Jeeps, running, throwing, catching, two dudes shooting basketball, just two cool dudes, but goatees, earrings, that heel kind of look, but we were baby faces. And they told me that it wasn't going to work. So I shaved my goatee. And then 2 days later, they called me up and they go, hey, when can you grow your goatee back? And I go, I said, it'll take me a couple of days. So when we went down to Disney for our first tapings, my goatee wasn't quite out, and I had to create outfits off the cuff. The first outfits you saw me and Scotty Riggs in, I called Scotty and I said, go buy a pair of white cowboy boots. And he goes, why? I said, just go do it. I got an idea. So he went and bought one pair of cowboy boots, but he had a pair of, I said, give me the best pair of jeans you got and a pair of cowboy boots. And I can make this work. I had these really two cool shirts that were workout shirts. It was just sleeveless shirts. They was white and one was black. And we both wore jeans. He had the black, he had the white boots and the white vest, the white shirt. And I had the black one with the black boots. So the white, black, I had the jeans we had out of our closet. We put sequins on them down in Orlando. And we had to put American Males in sequins on the back of my two workout shirts. And that outfit was the first outfit of the American Males.
Wow.
That's a great story.
Wow.
So it was great. It was just great stuff, man. It was just instant. we instantly got along, and we were the same age. So the American male, even though when I get asked this sometimes, it's hard to answer with as much fun and success as I had with my tag teams. The American male one was the most fun because it was more of what I believed in. It was more of looking cool, and we could be a little cocky and be a baby face. And it was, it was more, me and Scotty were the same age. We went to clubs together. We hung out together. We were the American males. It was just a pretty cool gimmick to have.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
So you would go on to win the tag team championships with him.
Yeah.
It would be your fourth reign to this point. At this point in your career, can you share what your thoughts and emotions were at the time? Were you happy, frustrated, content, satisfied, indifferent?
I was super happy. I wasn't in line for a U.S. title or a TV title, but it's kind of hard to do that when you're the world tag team champion. So my hands were, even though I was never really up for any of those, I was always in the dead mix of the world title, for tag team title, always. So I was always so busy with that. I mean, again, I was 5-time champion with 4 partners. So, that's a big deal. And you say in 11 years, every other year, that means I was a champion. So that's a lot, So I feel like I was never really up in the running for the other stuff, but I had my hands full with the tag team stuff, man. And the American male thing, I think, would have continued on and been probably the biggest tag team, one of the biggest tag teams ever. But then NWO happened, and Nash came to me and said, "Do you want to join the NWO?" And I said, "Absolutely." And he goes, I said, "Is Scotty coming in too?" And he goes, "Well, not yet, but maybe we'll have something for him down the road." And we didn't know what was going to. It wasn't a positive day when I went to the NWO. It was a very negative day for me and Scotty. But at the same time, it was something that we couldn't hold back. I mean, if Scotty ever got presented the NWO, I'd have been like, of course, go. He supported me with going. And all it was going to do is we knew that wrestling was going to get much bigger for all of us. And Scotty went on and had a hell of a career with the Flock, and he did a lot of stuff as well. The NWO thing just happened to be a great thing that none of us knew how great it was going to be.
Man.
I mean, and that took care of my next question too. I mean, just it's like you're looking at our itinerary for the interview, so to speak. I mean, it's like you're it's like it's in front of you. I'm not even kidding, because next question was literally formation of the NWO, how it changed your career, how it changed the trajectory of it. Now you kind of hinted at this, but were you fully on board with it at this point?
Looking back on it, I just knew it had to be a good thing. There wasn't no chance I was going to say, no thanks, Kev. I was definitely going to say, yeah, just because it was so many stars. I mean, you got Hogan, Nash, Hall, the Giant, X-Pac, Vincent. I think I was 7. Somebody told me. I think I was number 7 or 8. I've always heard 7, but I don't know exactly. But yeah, so that early on, I knew as soon as I got in that something else had to happen for my name. The Marcus Alexander Bagwell thing is my real name and all that, but I knew that I needed some kind of, you had The Rock that was going on over there. You had Stone Cold that was going on over there. You had Sting. You had gimmicks, you had names. I knew I needed a name, and I didn't come up with it. On a plane ride, me and the wrestlers were trying to come up with my name, and Nick Patrick on a plane ride from the West Coast to Atlanta, he's who thought of my name. And I can't remember what names we were throwing around, but as soon as we heard, hey, what about Buff Bagwell? And everybody just went, what? And Nick said, what about Buff? And I went, everybody just went, that's it. Buff Bagwell. You got to be kidding. That's it. We were in, man, no doubt about it. So Buff Bagwell was born, and it just fit, Buff Bagwell. I was like, wait a minute now. I'm Buff, and I'm the stuff. And the girls can't get enough. That rhymes. I got something here.
That's such a cool story. I mean, I love it. So you were part of the infamous My Spot promo, the Horsemen parody interview. We've heard from others their takes during various podcast interviews, but from your perspective, whose idea was it to do this promo, and were the Horsemen on board knowing the content of it?
Yes. This was in Pensacola, Florida, is when this went down, brother. And I walked in. I went to the gym in Pensacola, and I had I was trying to figure out. I knew something was going on when I got back to the building. I was like, man, I said, something's been going on. I could just tell by everybody's looks on their faces. And then I saw Kevin Nash dressed as Arn. And I went, oh my God. And then I saw, and they were in a room by themselves. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's not good. I said, I wonder how these guys are taking this, you know? So it didn't take long to see that it wasn't real good what was going on, except, you know, I knew it was good for us. It was going to be good for us. But so of all things, I get the most heat because I'm the one that came up with the styrofoam cooler that Nash had. So I was like, how did I get the heat for this? Because I came up with the cooler. But of course, Eric goes, where'd you get that cooler from? And Nash goes, Bagwell gave it to me. I go, wait a second. Because I gave him a styrofoam cooler, I'm the bad guy? So I said, you kidding? We just made fun of Ric Flair on TV. I was Kurt Hennig and the spot thing. And oh my God, it was hilarious, but it caused a lot of friction, bro.
I mean, and for what it's worth, I mean, that's up my alley. Just, you know, being an old school wrestling fan, Horseman fan, but that cooler added to that promo. I mean, it just, if it wasn't there, I mean, it's crazy how a single drop can change.
A styrofoam cooler made the interview. It really did. I just didn't think it'd be the total heat for it. I got the blame for it. I'm like, wait a minute, man. I mean, he looked horrible. I mean, the way he did his interview, and I mean, Kevin's interview in that was hilarious. I mean, you know, belly up to a bar, and just his wording in it was just, you couldn't have scripted it out in Hollywood better. It was classic, but it was vicious though. It was vicious.
So, kind of jumping ahead a little, I want to discuss your neck injury in April of '98. So, for everyone watching, to provide a little bit of context, it was an episode of Thunder. You took a top rope bulldog from Rick Steiner, and it was a freak accident. You jammed your neck, damaged some vertebrae, had to have surgery. To your best recollection, do you recall what was going through your mind right after it happened? Do you remember the conversations that were going on in the ring after the injury?
I remember it all scary vividly. As soon as Rick, the finish of the match was going to be the bulldog. Rick covers me. 1, 2. Scotty hits Rick with a chair, puts Buff on top. 1, 2, 3. NWO wins. Easy finish, good finish. I'm getting a big win on Thunder. NWO's getting a big win, and Buff Bagwell's getting the cover. So big deal for me. Huge deal in my career. And Rick comes off and misses me. And what a lot of people don't know is Rick's shoulder was real messed up during this time. And I'm not sure if that played a part or not, but I'd taken that move a bunch before and we'd never messed it up. And Rick, when he comes off, the one thing he's got to do is he's got to grab your head. Mm-hmm. And he kind of missed me a little bit. And so when he missed me, I'm instantly, with live TV cameras, I'm going to try to catch up and make it look like at least a collision.
Yeah.
So as I'm catching up to him and I go into him, when I get to his back, my face goes into his back and my head goes that way real hard. And when it snapped, that's when I instantly was like, and I mean, my brain instantly said, you're paralyzed. Oh my God, I'm paralyzed. I remember like a ringing was going on in my ears, and like like a silent ring, if that makes sense. Like I didn't hear nothing. Everything kind of got quiet, and I could hear my own thoughts, man. It was like I just was really in tune with whatever was going on, and it was very clear and very vivid that I was paralyzed, no doubt. And so just from being, I mean, it wasn't like a stinger and it kind of felt weird and electricity went down my arm. I couldn't move from right here down. Nothing. The one thing I want everybody to watch, if they ever watch that over, tonight, try this at home if you want to. If you're laying on your stomach, if a human is laying on their stomach and they're completely relaxed, asleep, dead, or paralyzed, if you roll them over, their legs will cross 100% of the time. Not 99, 100, your legs cross. When you roll somebody over, their legs are automatically going to cross because you have no feeling in your legs. They're going to cross. And if you look back, there's only a brief second or two you see it because that dumbass Virgil, he didn't know I was paralyzed, and he's trying to pull me out of the ring. So, but if you look when it first happens and Rick rolls me over, my legs are crossed. And that tells you I'm totally paralyzed right there. And I'm going 100 miles an hour, man. I'm like, don't touch me. Don't touch me. Oh, my God. And I knew Scotty at 270 and completely out of control at the time is coming down with a chair. And I'm like, Scotty, no, don't do it. No. Well, he hits Rick with a chair. Rick throws himself off of me. And but before that happened, though, when I knew I was paralyzed, when Rick rolled me and I met his eyes, I went, I'm paralyzed. And his eyes got that big, but we can't talk about it. We just kept going. So he rolled me on over. My legs were crossed. He covers me. Here comes Scotty in. Wham with the chair. I'm talking a million miles an hour. Rick throws himself off of me. And Scotty grabs my arm and is going to lay my arm over Rick. 1, 2, 3. We win. And when he grabbed my arm and took me over his arm, over his body, my arm just went back down. And the ref counts 1, 2, 3. Who won?
Yeah.
Both backs are down. So nobody really knew. And our announcers, Tony Schiavone and Bobby the Brain and all those guys, they didn't look at what we were doing. They called our show like they saw it.
Yeah.
So they didn't know who was winning. They didn't know who was losing. They didn't know any angles, anything that was getting shot. They called it like a football game, which was genius. And I didn't know that until that day. But they stayed away from us as much as they could because they wanted to be able to call it like they saw it. So they didn't know. They go, oh, this looks like an NWO thing. What's going on here, And then Bobby came down to the ring and found out that I was actually paralyzed.
Wow.
Yeah.
So assuming at the, going through your mind, well, before I get to that question, when did you finally realize that, for lack of a better way to word it, that you weren't paralyzed, that, you still had feeling in your legs, arms, back, etc.?
It was about 4 minutes. And man, that's a long time, brother. But honestly, it was about 4 minutes. It seemed like it was an hour, but about 4 minutes. I can tell you this. I was talking to Danny, our trainer, Danny Young, and I remember Norton was crying. He was crying. Luger was crying, but again, we had made wrestling real again, bro. So Sting wanted to come out and see about me. Luger was right there and couldn't see about me because we were the bad guys. We were the heels. We were the NWO, and they were WCW. So nobody could really care about me. So they all had to. So Luger was about to cry. Norton's crying. Rick's upset. We're all friends and buddies. So they had to get out of the ring and let Norton take over. So in that time, me and Norton are talking, and I had switched my brain from being 100% paralyzed. I was talking to Scott Norton and saying, it's okay, Scott. Don't worry about it, man. He goes, I said, I can make this a positive thing. I go, I can go to schools and talk like Christopher Reeves. Christopher Reeves was still alive at this time. And I go, I can go to schools like Christopher Reeves does, and I can talk to schools and give them motivational talks, man. I keep in mind, I'm saying these words and I can't feel anything. I am paralyzed, bro. My life is over. I'm paralyzed. No more wrestling, no more motorcycle. I just had paid $88,000 for the lot for the home I built my house on. It was all gone, bro. It was over. In the middle of that, I found enough positive in my brain to say, I can still make a positive out of this. I can go to schools like Christopher Reeves. It was huge for a 28-year-old kid or man to come up with something that positive at that negative of a moment. And during that time of saying that to Danny and Scott Norton, Danny Young said, your hand's moving. I didn't know it. I couldn't feel it. So, and I can't raise up and look because all I could move was my head. So I looked down and I could see my hands kind of moving. And then at that time, I remember I kind of felt like hot water went up my left arm. But then it stopped right there. And then my right arm happened and it stopped. And then my left leg and right leg. And when you watch it back on TV, I'm laying there, my arms and legs are kind of back, but I can't feel my torso. And if you watch the whole thing back, I'm kind of under the ropes a little bit. You'll see me go like this. I'm laying there and I'm trying to get my bearings, like just trying to see if I'm paralyzed or not. And I remember going and feeling my chest and I couldn't feel it.
Wow.
So as I was getting taped to the board, I went into getting taped to the board of moving. Does that mean I'm paralyzed or not? That I was moving my fingers and toes, and nobody would answer me. And I said, guys, I moved my fingers and toes. Is that a good thing or not? And nobody would answer me. And I go, so I cussed at him. I said, come on, man. And the dude whispers in my ear. He goes, we can't tell you, man. He goes, we don't know, and we don't want to mislead you. We're not allowed to say anything. So here for the next 3 hours, I never ask again, am I paralyzed or not? Because nobody's going to tell me anyway. So for the next 3 hours, I'm going through CAT scans and MRIs, duct taped to a board. I can move my fingers and I can move my toes. That's all I know I can move. And the doctor walks in, they untape me, and he says, set up. And I went, what? He goes, set up. And so I start, slowly kind of setting up. And I was like, oh my God. And he goes, I said, what is it? What happened? He goes, your cervical disc at 3-4 shot in and hit my spinal cord. When it hit my cord, swelling happened. And when your spinal cord swells, you feel like you're 100% paralyzed. The swelling goes down and you can move again.
Wow.
The problem is it's there. It's at the cord, so that it go in, remove that, and put a new one in, plates and screws in the back. They did that at 3-4 and 6-7, and they go through the front right here. Mm-hmm. So I'm fused at 3-4, 6-7 with 2 plates and 8 screws.
Man.
Crazy.
Wow. That's just crazy. I'm mind blown. So you would eventually return from this injury, teasing kind of a face turn, but remaining with the NWO. Were there any other storylines pitched, made for your comeback, or was this always kind of the plan?
Not really the plan, but I really should have came back, and I could have been the biggest baby face in the world, man. Mm-hmm. I would have been WWF's Rock. I was already WWF's Rock. Me and Rock were doing the exact same thing in different companies. And it's the only time that my career was kind of parallel to the Rock's, but it was. He was really getting over at WWF, and I was really getting over at WCW. And I mean, we would talk to each other. We'd talk about how many people did you have at your signing, and how many people did he have, and so it was a big deal. And instead, Eric brought me back as a heel, and man, I felt like it was a bad call. I mean, I loved it because I was a heel and all that, but I needed to be a babyface right there. I mean, man, I had 10,000 plus fan mail that was all rooting for me, that saw me get injured on live TV. And I mean, we had fighter pilots in the Air Force that touched my picture before going to battle. I mean, just crazy stuff like that, man. And I burned them. I burned all those fans with being a heel. It was just, I mean, who knows about right or wrong? It's not that kind of thing. It just, as you look back on it, I think I should have been a babyface.
Yeah, and I would definitely agree with that. So shortly after WCW started transitioning away from the NWO storyline, unfortunately, it did kind of seem as though WCW would be on its last leg around this time, like 2000, 2001 time frame is what I'm referencing for those of you watching. For you, was the writing on the wall, in your opinion? Were you trying to make the best of it? Were you possibly seeking to jump to the WWF or elsewhere at this time?
Nobody knows this, and I wouldn't think many people believe me, but Vince had courted me during this. He had contacted me to come to WWF, and the contract I signed was ironclad because I signed my contract on my paralyzed neck bed. I was in the hospital, injured, and needing neck surgery. And I was on a handshook deal with Eric Bischoff. So I was on a handshook deal for 3 years, and I was worried about if he was even going to hire me. So when he hired me, instead of getting, some of the stuff taken out of my contract and stuff added into my contract, I turned to the last page, made sure my money was right, and I signed it. So things I could have got done as Buff Bagwell by getting some things taken out of my contract and some things added in. I didn't really care because Eric did me such a favor, even hiring me. I was to that stage. I may not ever made it back, but he still signed me to a 3-year deal. That was huge. And so, with that said, Vince comes along and, flies me up to meet him. He does his fly up thing and meet his family and you eat dinner with them. And so he flew me up and something happened. I think looking back on it, I think something at WCW happened during that where I didn't know what was going on, but he couldn't meet with me. So Shane met me at the hotel. And it was just a brief, short kind of meeting, just saying, hey, we're interested in you. We want you to come across. We want you to come aboard. And we're looking forward to meeting you. And we want you to come up. So my contract, though, was it was no way to get out of it. Vince McMahon called me himself and told me, he goes, man, your contract it's just no way to get around it. I think the final day was like August or September something. I think they took it over in July. So I had a couple of months, if I remember right, on my contract left. And instead of sitting at home and getting paid that money, I gave my money to the WWF and signed my new contract and went aboard. I think I was the first one to go aboard with WWF contractually.
So we're going to kind of wrap up our portion of the interview, if you will.
Yeah.
Give just a few moments for a couple viewer questions. But so WWF purchases the WCW, March of 2001. Your contract was picked up. You're signed with the WWF. You do a match with Booker T on an episode of Raw. But a week later, you're released. In your own words, in your own opinion, you're already telling us like, hey, WWF's been interested in me. There's all these conversations and stuff. What happened here? Were there any specific events that led to this? Where is it at for you?
They hired me and they had me go down to school. They had me go to the wrestling school. And when they had me go to the wrestling school, I knew that was a big deal. And I knew they probably thought I was going to complain, or bitch about the school. So I didn't, and I went, and it was like the first week they had me go down there to get used to the 20-foot ring. Well, down there the first week was at the end of the first week of going to learning how to, hit the ropes and getting used to the 20-foot ring and all that. And the end of the last workout was Shane Helms and me, and everybody was in the ring just resting. We had a really good workout. I noticed that Shane didn't wrestle that day, wasn't in the ring a lot, and so something happened. The boys were joking around like they do, and he kind of threw a jab at me, and I threw a jab back. Long story short, I smacked him a ton, whap, and he rolled across the ropes, and I instantly go, God, Bagwell, there you go again, man. What have you done? And I go to walk off, and man, he had a water bottle under his shirt that was frozen. And that's how WWF iced things. They iced it with a water bottle, and you put it on something, they'd wrap an ace bandage around it. He took it out of his ace bandage and whap on my head from behind. And I don't know how I didn't go down, but I didn't. It was, I just instantly was blood everywhere. Johnny Ace and Fit Family come running up to me, and I got 11 sets of eyes of WCW guys looking at me, and their eyes are saying, please don't say what happened. Please. And I looked at Johnny, and I go, I fell. And Johnny goes, what? I go, I stepped out of the ring, and I fell. And the guys all went, like, thank God, including, I don't care what he says, including Shane Helms. Shane Helms had a towel on my head, and me and Shane are great friends now. We're good friends. But he had a towel on my head, and he was worried. I mean, he had hit the golden boy. I mean, I was going to have a job. I mean, Buff Bagwell had a job at the WWF, and everybody knew it except me. I didn't think it, but I was hoping. But everybody else seemed to know I was okay. So he's in the bathroom holding the towel on my head. I don't tell nobody. I get on the plane. Mark Jindrak. Jindrak is who helped me pack my bags and helped me get to Atlanta. I flew home with a gash in my head that took 20 staples. Oof. The things that nobody talks about is there were 20 staples in my head the night of Booker T's match.
Wow.
That's things nobody talks about, So staples in my head. I don't use WWF's doctor because I don't want to get in trouble. I use my doctor, no money, don't take no time off, no nothing. The school thing happens, and then the next thing I know, me and Booker are wrestling in Tacoma, Washington. And I'm like, wait a second, what? Atlanta's next week. So didn't quite understand, neither did Booker. But why are we doing this in Tacoma? We did it in Tacoma. And then this is the part that only God, Jim Ross, and myself know. And that is Jim Ross calls me up on a Wednesday and says, you don't got to do the house shows. I think we were in Augusta, Birmingham, I think was the house shows. And then Raw was Monday night in Atlanta. And he told me to take the house shows off. And they had big plans for me on Monday in Atlanta. And I thought we had big plans for me. The big plans were, you're fired, Bagwell. So I showed him in Atlanta and walked into a room, and I was like, are y'all firing me? And they said, no, we're releasing you. And I said, what's the difference? And they had an answer. And the answer was, if we release you, we can bring you back in 3 months. And if we fire you, we can't. And I started shaking hands and smiling because I knew it was over. And it was over.
So there was never explanation on what the big plans were. They never explained why the release came abruptly. Nothing.
I have no idea 22 years later why I was fired or released or whatever you call it. I hit Shane Helms. They said the story was a bad match. Well, I don't know how big of fans you guys are, but you don't fire a Stone Cold, a Rock, a Lex Luger, a Sting, or a Buff Bagwell for a bad match. I'm a 5-time world tag team wrestler. One bad match. Let's say it was horrible. You don't get fired for that. You get warned.
Right.
Okay. Let's say, so that's one. The second one is my mother called. Again, you don't get fired for that. You may get warned. And I didn't get told either one of those from them, but that's the stories that came. Bad match and my mother calling. The bad match over time went from a bad match to that match wasn't bad at all to people. But neither here nor there. You just focus in on, let's say my mother did call. So what? Warn me and get over it. Let's say I did have the worst match ever. Okay. Warn me and you get over it. You don't fire somebody for that. So that ain't the reason why. So you look at, was it because I slapped Shane? Again, a bunch of wrestlers slapping somebody?
Yeah.
You don't get fired over that either. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I truly don't know. And I'd give anything to know, but I don't know.
You hear all these stories now. You see the dark side of the rings. You see the documentaries. Everyone comes out. The things that people have been allowed to do in this business, and get away with it. And even now, you want to talk about bad matches. There are people in every top company that put on consistently bad matches on a week-to-week basis and somehow still not just don't lose their job, they make TV the next week.
Oh yeah, exactly. And they put them over and they get over it.
That is mind-blowing. Well,
it's crazy.
Maybe one of these days somebody will from that time, from that story can shed some light, because that is mind-blowing. But we want to take a minute before we get to our questions. Marcus, if you could just take a moment, tell us anything that you want to promote, your pro wrestling tees, anything that people can connect with you on, so they can stay up to date with you.
Yeah, man. Well, the big thing's coming up for me, man, is I'm going to be at WrestleCon in LA at the end of the month, and that's going to be huge at WrestleMania. I'm going to WrestleMania as well, so I'm really excited about that. But as far as I'm considered, is getting in touch with me or staying in touch with what Marcus Bagwell's doing, go to marcusbuffbagwell.com. That's my website. It takes you to all of my platforms. It takes you to my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Takes you to all my handles and stuff. So anything that's going on with me, you can go to marcusbuffbagwell.com, and it kind of gives you what's going on with me. So that's the best thing to do. And I'm doing a lot of signings, and I'm booked already, really busy through 2023 already, but really looking forward to 2 weeks doing WrestleMania. I'm really excited about that. So a lot of good stuff's going to come from that. It's going to be the first time I've done Mania in a couple years, and I'm just real pumped about being out there and being around the top talent again, So MarcusBuffBagwell.com, and I'll see everybody in WrestleCon in LA.
Awesome. So like Cole said, we're going to take some questions from our viewers. Just so everyone's aware, we do give first dibs to our Patreon members. So if you'd like to be part of that for future interviews, you can join us for as little as $5 a month on our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/GoingBroadwayPodcast. We mentioned this earlier. Some of our future guests include Conrad Thompson joining us next Monday, March 27th. We've got wrestling legend B. Brian Blair joining us the week after that on Monday, April 3rd. And then Jake Roberts joining us the week after that on April the 10th. So check out our socials for dates and times on that. And we'll get to some questions. And again, we give first dibs to our Patreon members. So the first question comes from Thomas Russell. He asks, what was it like being trained by the likes of Dusty Rhodes, Steve Lawler, and Mike Graham?
Man, it was a good mix to be with those guys. I mean, you had, Steve Lawler, which was a guy that, I thought was one of the best workers ever that I was associated with. And, he really, he did the right thing with me. He knew how to, turn it on in the beginning and to see if I had what it took. And then he knew when to ease up on me and let me see, I think he saw something in me that knew I was going to be able to pull this thing off. So he really started, really focusing on what I needed to do in the dressing rooms to make it more than in the ring, because I was just I had what it took, he felt like. And the time, all he could do at that stage is just, get in the ring as much as you could and get better and better. But with Mike Graham and Dustin, and Dusty kind of leading everybody, that was the best training I got, because that was right there at WCW and WCW's ring, and Dustin Rhodes was coming up. He was a natural because he was natural, and and that was going on. And Mike Graham was really a ring technician as well. So I just felt like I had the best of all the worlds of becoming Marcus Alexander Bagwell.
The next question comes from David Tilley. He asks, I'll ask his version of the question and I'll kind of elaborate more. He asks, when did Bagwell become Mr. Rogers, and what is the future of that character?
When I was shooting the show Change or Die that I was talking to you guys about, when I was shooting that, one of the things we came up with that we had to do was we had to come up with something that was opposite of our lives. And mine was the opposite of Buff Bagwell is, Mr. Rogers. So Steve Hughes, who thought of it, and we kind of just threw it out there to see what it looked like. And it just really kind of took off. So we had a lot of fun with it, and we started putting some videos out, and there's going to be a lot more stuff coming out with the Mr. Bagwell character. And just, we just want to see in the future, I'd like to see more of that. I know that we get a lot of remarks wanting to see more of it. It's just, it's still, I'm Buff Bagwell, but it just still, I like to be able to one day be able to, like, when I go to these signings, have like a day that I'm Mr. Bagwell and a day that I'm, Buff Bagwell, so we're having a lot of fun with it. And I really like the character, and I look a lot like Mr. Rogers. So I think it's kind of good.
Who were some of your favorite opponents, and do you have a favorite match from your career?
Yeah, I do got a favorite match, and I always go to this one, it seems, but 1993 Halloween Havoc with the Nasty Boys, me and Too Cold, we came out at the championship, and we came out at the Havoc with the belts. We were the World Tag Team Champions. We came out as champions. We left as losers of the belts, but we came out as champions. I remember coming out in our orange and black tights, Halloween Havoc. We both are in good shape. We're ready to go against the Nasty Boys. Missy Hyatt was their manager, and Teddy Long was ours. So that kind of a match has 7 brains that are going in 7 different directions. You got your tag team, which is 4, and you got 2 managers, that's 6, and you got a referee. That's 7 different minds that's got to come together to put a match on. And I feel like that match was maybe one of the most flawless tag team matches ever. And it just really was a great, great match. 1993 Havoc.
Love it. Jordan Fager asks, what was it like working with Scott Steiner?
It was intense. It was real. Scotty was great. It was, I came off of the Vicious and Delicious thing, breaking my neck with Scott Norton. And when I came back, in 3 months, Norton was in Japan. So they put me with Steiner, and that took off as well, too, and was a great matchup. And, Scotty needed somebody at that time, and I was coming off a broke neck, and I needed somebody. So it was just a good match. 2 of the best bodies in the business at the time that were, that really we thought the same, we acted the same, and we both were heels, and it just made a good tag team. It made a good team partnership. And so that's what we did. It was just a great time, but he was super intense, which made me more intense. So it made me a better wrestler, a better interviewer. It made me step up to my game as well. So I loved wrestling with Scotty. He was a great guy.
Can't find it, but someone asked in the chat earlier, what is your thoughts on the current WWE world title picture, and do you have any predictions for that?
I do. I think it's time for a change. I really do. I think Roman's had it way too long, and there's really nobody that I feel is ready to step up except one person, and that's Cody. I think Cody he looks the part. He is the part. He's a Rhodes. He's got the years under his belt. He's got the body. He's got the height. He's got the look. He has what it takes to put the belt over his shoulder and carry the world tag team, the world championship. He just has it. He is a champion. He's a winner. And Roman is too, but it's just time for a change, man. It's time for a change. And Cody's ready for it, I think.
Last question comes from Bonnie Pierce. What are some of your hobbies nowadays?
Hobbies. Wow. Believe it or not, for the first time in my life, family has become a hobby because of my nephews playing ball and getting into baseball with him and training my niece in the gym in the ring to wrestle. Just my hobbies in life have become around my family, and I love it. So the gym's always there for me. And I love working out. And Top Golf would probably be my biggest hobby right now. That's the one I actually enjoy and I love doing. I started hitting a golf ball with a crutch. And I was on a crutch, and I was hitting a golf ball one-handed. So now I hit a golf ball with one hand, and I play competitive. So it's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's crazy. It's a lot of fun, and I enjoy it.
Awesome. Well, unfortunately, that's going to about do it for us. We want to be respectful of your time and other commitments you might have. But thank you again so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. This was so much fun, and the invitation's always open to join us down the road if and when you might be available.
Absolutely, man. I really enjoyed it, and thank you guys so much.
Yeah, I just got to say thank you again for being here. The open and honesty, the candid story, man, I love it. And I'm going on record. This is one of my favorite interviews just because I love the open, the honesty about your story and where you're at now, but also just the open and honesty throughout your career. So just thank you so much for taking time with us tonight. It's been an honor. It's been very great.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you guys so much, and I really enjoyed it. You guys did a great job.
Thank you. Wow. Good stuff. Cole, you're speechless, or you're frozen. Okay.
It was good.
I thought you weren't moving. I thought the screen froze up or something.
Yeah, it was good. So, man. All right. Well,
that's going to about do it for us. Cole, any final thoughts?
Guys, as always, thank you for watching the greatest wrestling podcast ever. Again, make sure you go follow the socials to see all the guests that we have coming up. Make sure you tune back into our YouTube when I get these clips done so you can check out all the things that Buff Bagwell had to say. And, make sure you're following us on our Discord. Get into the greatest wrestling community that there is. We love to chat. We love to talk wrestling. So join us on there. But until next time, I'll leave you guys with your favorite thing in the entire world.
Guys, we'll see you next week with Conrad Thompson.